So the idea is a farmer sowed some seeds. And God is the farmer, and the seed is the word. In the Hebrew language, the word for word is debar. And debar means something that's true and genuine, the real thing. That's what it means. Do you remember the old Coke commercial? I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. Then they go to the chorus, it's the real thing, what the world wants today. It's the real thing. I YouTubed it. It's from 1971. Wow, did I feel old. I was just a toddler at that time, 1971. Debar, the real thing, the word. So when our lectors read the lessons on Sunday mornings, and they oftentimes end by saying, the word of the Lord, the real thing of the Lord. And we reply, thanks be to God. This is the message and mission of Jesus. Listen, he says, I'm the real thing, the Word made flesh. My teaching will bring together your life and the world in perfect harmony. The kingdom of God is the real thing. So listen, Jesus begins. It's an invitation that is plural. It's like he's saying, listen, y'all. He was in southern Galilee at the time. The kingdom of God is like a farmer planting seeds. This isn't a garden. This is a Palestinian field. And unlike Iowa or Michigan, the ground isn't that friendly. And the practice of farmers was to broadcast the seeds. That is, sowing it indiscriminately in hope something will grow. So what does that tell us about God's kingdom? It's for everyone. God's creative word is thrown all around indiscriminately. The seeds are scattered everywhere for everyone to find. And it's the real thing. It's what the world needs today. And we, like the soil, just need to be fertile and receive it or look for it. My dad, I thought of my dad today, Father's Day. My dad used to take videos about 50 years ago with this big, bulky 8mm camera. I guess it was an 8mm camera. Anyway, he pulled it out of a yellow box, so I assumed it was a Kodak. It was a square metal thing with a crank on the side. In our home movies, you'd only see yourself for a millisecond in the movie, because Dad was usually saying, "Get out of the way, I want to film this tree." My dad filmed scenery. That's what he did. We had 200 reels of film on a shelf in the closet with only 23 seconds of us kids on those reels. You'd hardly even know they had kids. We were always popping up our heads, trying to get into the picture. We were the first photo bombers. On rare occasions, Mom would get the camera, but she couldn't keep it still, and she kept cutting off our heads. I don't know what I looked like in second grade, but I can tell you what kind of shoes I wore. They were Converse. Once, Dad actually filmed the road while he was driving. Made us all a little nervous, I guess that way if he got lost, he wouldn't have to ask for directions. He could just review the film. When my dad was young, he wanted to join the Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, initiated by FDR, for young men who wanted to protect the natural resources of the country. But for some reason, it never worked out. Then he wanted to be a forest ranger, out west. Out west. Where's west? Out west. But he ended up working at GM in Saginaw for 30 years. I'm not sure what happened. Probably got married, started having kids faster than a Play-Doh factory. But I know that his dream went unfulfilled. So he passed it on to me. Dad's legacy to me is the gift of nature. And I've been fortunate to have Christy, who is also passing on the gift of nature, wherever she is. Hi there. Hi, Christy. If Dad and you had met, he would have handpicked you for me to carry on nature's lesson. And the lesson? My life is but a smaller part of the big picture. Seeing meaning in life by looking beyond the clouds or beneath a rock, by climbing a tree or fraternizing with fireflies, or eating rhubarb right out of the patch. He was a meaning maker. He taught me to find myself in nature, which dribbled over into my whole life, to make daily life sacramental, which literally means keeping the sacred, the sacra, in mind. Mental, sacramental. The natural world and the supernatural world together as a whole, like Jesus taught. He never separated the two. So whether you're in the woods or cutting the lawn twice a week, or playing golf, or, except for on Sunday, of course, Sunday morning that is, or driving down a country road and filming it, what you're seeing, the sky, the green, the water, the sun, it's all part of God's art. Sacramental. Often I will pause in our living room to appreciate the two Van Goghs that we have hanging on our wall. They're the real ones, by the way. Cost $60 million each. The brush strokes, the colors, the complex simplicity, the haunting beauty of Van Gogh's work. Nature is the same way. God is the consummate artist. Nature always wears the colors of spirit. I was in Grand Rapids the other day, and I like to visit the big city, Chicago, Ann Arbor, whatever. So much culture and society and, of course, good coffee. Of course, we have some pretty good coffee around here, too, don't we? I had the thought that we humans design cities for our own convenience. And when you live there, you can assume that the world is all about you. City lights dim the stars, buildings shut out the view, concrete changes the temperature, cars drown out nature's voice. And you can forget. Do you know why a moth is attracted to your porch light? I bet some of you do, because you're nature people, aren't you? Because the moth thinks it's the moon. Isn't that interesting? And it usually bangs its head against the porch light until it falls dead upon the floor. You'd think some wise moth would say, whoa, wait a minute. You think about what you're doing. That's not the real thing. There's the moon. Well, Jesus, the wise moth, once said, "Consider the wildflowers and the birds of the air. They neither toil nor labor, yet look how content they are and how God takes care of them." All nature seems to speak, said Van Gogh. Why can't everyone feel it? But that's not to say that God is nature, because nature can be cruel, like our cat. I don't remember which cat it was, but I know I was afraid of her. Our schizophrenic cat in the house was so fluffy on your lap, on her back with her purring and playfulness, but let her out at night, and in the morning you'd see dead animals all over the place, fur and entrails all over the place. Once I came down the stairs, boom, boom, down the stairs in the morning, and I glanced out the sliding glass door that led out to our deck, and there sat half a squirrel from the waist up, looked like this. And there's Kitty in the background, just kind of licking her Freddy Krueger paws. God is not nature, but nature tells us something about God. The seasons, the cycles, dead in the winter, alive in the spring, a hollow log, an empty tomb, new, soft, velvety leaves, robin eggs, the resurrection. Too late have I loved you, O beauty so ancient and new. St. Augustine wrote in his book, The Confessions. He described a time in his life when he had wandered away from God, later to return to those fair things that God has made, at last tracing the sunbeams back to its source. That's what sacramental life is all about. Tracing the sunbeams back to their source. Attributing to God the glory for what God has made. And hallowing the ground around you. It was another father, Father Henry David, who said, live deliberately, confront life, and see if you can learn what it has to teach, and not when it comes time to die, discover you have not lived. It was Father Walt who said, you are here and life exists, and the powerful play goes on, that you may contribute a verse. It was Father Gandalf the Grey who said, all we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us. That is what I'm talking about. That's a bad joke. So dads, granddads, stepdads, superdads, doodads, big daddies, and daddy-os, take it from Father Rick the Graying. Become meaning makers. That's the best gift you can give your kids. Don't ram religion down their throats, but ask and encourage their questions about the natural world that God, like an artist, created. And they will learn to find meaning on their own as they journey through life, to keep the sacred in mind. And as they grow and grow, they'll continually review the film and learn it's the real thing. Amen.